What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and because you guys smashed that like button way above 50 likes on the branded Bystial updated profile, you've unlocked the test hand video. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to do 2 test hands going first, 2 test hands going second, and we're going to show you how this deck operates and the consistency of it as well. So if you want to see more branded Despia mixed up content, then please make sure you smash the like button on this video. Getting above 50 likes in the first 24 hours will unlock more for you as well. So with all of that out of the way, after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that is actually a nutty hand. Yes, we've opened up 2 semi-bricks, but we still have loads to make. So during the draw phase, very, very important, if you're new to this deck, always make sure that if you open up branded opening, you activate it during the draw phase, because, this actually happened to me today, your opponent can't Veiler you, and they can't draw Lockbird you, because it all happens during the draw phase, and nothing actually happens in the main phase yet. So draw phase, branded opening, any response from your opponent? Probably not. You're then going to discard Tragedy as effect, as if you wanted additional bonuses from that as well, and we're going to special summon out Aluba. Now, if you wanted to, you could go for another Aluba off the effect of Tragedy, because you're going to go Chain Link 1 Aluba, Chain Link 2 Tragedy. If you wanted to add another Aluba, you could do. I'm actually going to add myself and add Leviathan. One thing you could do, if you didn't want to be using the Tragedy effect, is you could actually save it, and then it means when you put a branded card in the graveyard, you can banish the Tragedy and add it back. So, really kind of cool on that one. So we're going to add the Add Leviathan off of that, and then, of course, we are going for the almighty, all-powerful branded fusion. If that wasn't enough, we're going to be able to go full combo because, ladies and gentlemen, we open up the Bystial Lubellion as well. So we move into the main phase. I'm going to activate the Lubellion. Now, if your opponent has an Ash Blossom, the chances are they're going to save it for the branded fusion. Like 9 out of 10, that is what's going to happen. So you can probably guarantee your Lubellion's going to go through. So we're going to activate Lubellion, and on this one, we're actually going to go for the Sorinir. Now, the reason we're going to go Sorinir is we're going to go a different route, and we're actually going to unlock more plays, which is really, really cool. So we're going to activate the branded fusion. We are going to send from our deck to the graveyard a Fallen of Albaz and a Tri-Brigade Merry Courier, and this is obviously going to set us up with our brand new Ribram. Now, the best thing about that is if your opponent does not know what it does, it will catch them off guard, because its graveyard effect, again, actually came up for me today, which was really, really important. So we're going to go into our Rimbram. I obviously put everything in defense if I'm going first, just in case there's a, cheeky little lightning storm running around. Now, obviously, at this point, you've got no more chains to continue to play, but what you do is you activate the Sorinir. The Sorinir will target the Merry Courier in the graveyard and banish that, while summoning itself down. Then trigger the effect of the Merry Courier, because it was banished as card effect. Now, or just banished in general. You could go for the Albion, which will be a random draw, but the card you're going to go to a lot more consistently is going to be your Blazing Cartesia. There we go. So you add the Blazing Cartesia to the hand. Now, you can do summon down the Cartesia, do the fusions and all this before you go through your Lubellion. I'm actually going to go through the Lubellion now. So I send Sorinir to the graveyard and summon out the Lubellion. My Sorinir's effect is going to trigger, and Sorinir is going to Foolish Burial branded in white. I'm then going to activate the Lubellion, and because I've already opened up Beast, I can go for Regained, which I will be banishing cards, so I will be able to get a nice little draw for the back of that and recycle some form of material, or you can go for the Branded Lost, which will give you the search for the Albion. So at the end of the day, it's whether you want to go for Albion and protect all your fusion plays, which is really, really important when you've got Cartesia, especially if this gets negated during your turn, because then you can use it during your opponent's turn. Alternatively, the Regained will give you a random draw and put back material, and mean you can also loot back your Bystials as well. So we're going to go with the Branded Lost on this one because we do have a lot more fusion summoning to do. So we're going to special summon down our Cartesia. We're going to use Cartesia's effect, and this is going to allow us to fusion summon on the board. Now, I want to keep the Bystial Lubellion here, so we're going to use Albaz and herself, and you're going to go into the brand new Dusk Dragon. You'll then be able to use Dusk Dragon's effect as Chain Link 1, and you use Branded Lost as Chain Link 2. Branded Lost. Now, again, in this scenario, you can actually go that little bit further because you've got Branded Lost. You can actually search out your Albion and get a random draw. If you didn't have Branded Lost, you could also go for a Merry Courier. You've got a couple of different options on how you want to do this. In this one, if you didn't want the Albion, you could actually send the Albion with your Dusk Dragon and get the same outcome, and then have a Merry Courier in hand. So you're either going to have a Merry Courier in the hand and the same combo, or in this one, we're going to get a random draw, and we're going to sell the Albion. arguably, because I learned something new today, that the Mirror Jade effect is still live, I suppose the smarter option would be to go for a Merry Courier. There we go. So we're going to shuffle this up, and then off of the Dust Dragon, you're going to send from the deck to the graveyard your Albion. There we go. And the reason you do this, you use Albion's effect, which will let you Foolish Burial the Retribution. There we go. And then you're going to put Albion back to the bottom of the deck, but because he didn't go from the hand, you don't get a random draw, which is absolutely fine, because the reason you do this is so you can banish the Retribution, and this will then allow you to add the Branded in White back to the hand. Now, the best thing about all of this is the fact that you've got monsters that list Fauna of Albaz, so your Merry Courier is actually live. So if your opponent tries to use a monster effect, you can actually Merry Courier it, which is really cool. We're then going to activate Branded in White. This is going to allow us to banish from the graveyard. So we are going to banish our Fauna of Albaz and banish our Soronir. I think it's absolutely fine. So 2 darks, and this is going to get you into your Lubellion. You're then going to use Lubellion's effect. This will allow you to discard a card in order to fusion summon by spinning the materials back. And obviously we've got plenty of options here, so I can ditch the Branded Sword, which will give me a second Merry Courier back to the hand, which we'll deal with later on. So this is going to let us spin back our Fawn of Albaz, and it can also spin back our... yeah, let's spin back the Lubellion. Just trying to see if there was a way of going into Albion as well, but I was just getting greedy. And we'll go into Mirror Jade. And then obviously we can banish the Branded Sword to let us add back the Merry Courier to the hand. Then what you do here, and this is what I learned, which is really, really new, but really, really cool, is you activate Mirror Jade's effect, you send as cost the Albion, and then you use the effect of the Rimbrum to negate the Merry Courier. Not the Merry Courier, sorry. The Mirror Jade. Now, the way this works is because Rimbrum negates pretty much that activated effect, it banishes as cost, which is why that goes through. But then because the activated effect is negated, Mirror Jade is now live during my opponent's turn anyway. So that was all news to me, which is absolutely amazing. I'm then going to set the Branded Beast. We're going to move to our end phase, and in our end phase, we're going to add the Blazing Cartesia back to the hand, and we're going to use the Albion effect to set a card. And the reason you can add the Blazing Cartesia back is because a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard. Now, on this one, it's entirely up to you. You've got plenty of Despias in the graveyard. The only thing you don't have is a Bystial in the hand. Now, you could, if you wanted to, add the Lubellion back to the hand off the Rimbrum, but you want to keep it on the board for the Branded Beast. So what we're going to do is we are going to go for a Branded in red. Now, obviously, it could be Branded Banishment. It could be anything you want. But with a hand like this, you've got follow-up for the next turn. You've got one form of interruption because you can only use this once, but you'll have protection during your turn. You've got the ability of Branded in red. So you can activate Mirror Jade, Branded in red, get rid of the Mirror Jade with the Alba, Adler Byton, and add back the Tragedy if you wanted to, or the Aluba. Probably if you add back the Tragedy, and then you fuse with the Tragedy plus the Adler Byton plus the Mirror Jade. After already using Mirror Jade's effect, keep that in mind, you can then go into your Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera would pop and loop cards back. It's just, yeah, like this play is endless and absolutely insane. This is like, I would say, bar having a Bystial in the hand. So if I was able to, like, even though I've searched out the 2 Merry Couriers, if you was able to swap one of those cards for a Bystial, then you'd be in pretty much dreamland. Or if you were able to get to like a Magnum within that play as well, crazy. Anyway, that's just like the ceiling of what this deck can do. It's absolutely crazy. Yes, why I'm highly tempted to go back to the Patchwork engine is because a simple like Ash on a Branded Fusion can be very, very painful. If you open enough Bystials, you can still play under that, because you're still able to kind of flood the board with Bystials and an OTK, even under a D barrier as well. So you still have plays to make, and Cartesia is... Whoa. The one thing you got to remember about Cartesia is it won't trigger the Guardian Chimera's effect, because Guardian Chimera will only get the pop on the draw if it is summoned by a fusion spell, and I learnt that the hard way as well. So after a very decent shuffle, and a good old cut, we'll do another test down going first, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, broken. Okay, during the draw phase, what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, that is right, we are going to activate the Branded opening. Now, in this scenario, I tend to always get rid of the second opening, because I kind of want to keep the Bull Drake, I want to keep the Magnamute, and Branded Fusion is going to get me everything I need anyway. So we're going into the Aluba. Now, if you're going second, you can actually search out a second Branded Fusion, because if your opponent negates the first Branded Fusion, you can actually activate another one. But we're going to go with this scenario that our opponent hasn't done that. So I'm just going to go with as much protection as I possibly can. And my common branded lost, sad days, why is this not super yet, is going to come down. So we move to the main phase. Now in the main phase, I'm going to activate the branded lost. You've probably telegraphed that you've already got, or you've already got branded fusion if you didn't search that originally. But it should be absolutely fine. We're going to activate branded fusion, and I'm actually going to go down the exact same route. I could go to Lubellion in order to get me a bit more like back row presence. But I'm going to go down the Merry Courier route, I believe. I feel that is that the better way of doing it? Nah, I'll lose both my Bystials. Let's go down the... I can get the Merry Courier a different way. We'll go the Albion route, and we'll get the Lubellion. There we go. And then Albaz. Really considering putting Albaz to 3. But then it can be bricky. Anyway... We're then going to go into our Albion. We're going to go chain link 1 Albion, chain link 2 branded lost. Branded lost, I'm going to search out. Do I want Ecclesia, Merry Courier, or do I want the Alba Dragon? I suppose with the Merry Courier, I can actually loop it around a little bit. So maybe that might be a better option. So we'll go with the Merry Courier. And what we're going to do here is we're going to banish the Albaz. And we're going to banish the Alubar. And we're going to go into Lubellion. Lubellion's effect is going to discard the Merry Courier, and it's going to allow me to fuse by spinning back the Albaz. I could spin back the Merry Courier if I wanted to get into the Rimbrum, but I'm actually going to send back the Lubellion, and this is going to allow me to get into Mirror Jade. There we go. So we've got a nice little setup there already, which is really kind of cool. And then what you want to do here is you want to activate... I might as well do this now. Activate the Magnamute. Now, the one thing I have done, because I haven't got the Banish the Mercurius, summon down the Magnamute's effect to trigger. But because I haven't got the Fallen of Albaz in the graveyard, the Cartesian is not going to be as good for me. So we're going to trigger the Merry Courier effect, and this is how you can loop the Merry Courier back. So we're going to go for Albion this time instead. Obviously, chain link 1 Magnamute, chain link 2 Merry Courier. This is then going to allow us to use the Albion effect. Now, I'm going to use Lubellion's effect first, just so that I can deck thin. So we'll Lubellion back, use Lubellion's effect, because I really don't want to be drawing into a branded beast. Obviously, again, I could go for a... I could go for the other branded continuous, Regained, but you don't need to. We're then going to use Albion's effect. Albion will send itself from the hand, and I'm going to send the sword from the deck. Now, I could send the Retribution, but there's not really anything that I want to add back. Like, I could add back a branded opening, but it's not really worth it, in my opinion, right now. So we send the branded sword. We will put... Oh, branded fusion, hello. We will put Albion back to the bottom of the deck. And we're going to draw 1 card after we shuffle it up. Druid Swarm? What? I was going to search that anyway. Step ahead of me. We're then going to activate the branded sword. We're going to banish this. We're going to add the Merry Courier back to the hand. And, you know, this may seem pretty basic. Why did I send the Magnamute? Misplay. I shouldn't have said the Magnamute. I should have sent the Albion. God, overlooking that one. That's what I should have done. I completely blanked out the Albion. Anyway, that's very fixable. You just don't send the Magnamute, you send the Albion. Very fine. And then what you do is you move to the end phase, and in the end phase you resolve a couple of effects. So you resolve Magnamute, which will allow you to search. Now, considering I've already got Druid Swarm and Baldrake, I'm actually going to search myself the Saronir. And then I'm going to use the Albion Dragon, and this is going to set me up a branded in... Do I want a branded red? Have I got... I mean, Albion was successfully summoned. Let me just double check the wording on it. No. So I can go for Banishment or I can go for Retribution. So we'll go with Banishment. Absolutely fine. Now I'm going to play through my opponent's turn just so you can kind of see like the magnitude of, again, very basic but more hand advantage in this one. So what we've actually got here is we've got a lot to play with. So during our opponent's turn, what you probably want to do first is you probably want to Merry Courier because you'll set up yourself some advantage with these guys right here. Then obviously you've got Mirror Jade's effect, so we're probably going to be sending an Albalainatus or a Albion, either or, doesn't make much of a difference on this one. Then you've also got the ability to activate, and I would probably activate Druid Swarm first. Druid Swarm would banish the Merry Courier. Merry Courier would then trigger to search out... I want Albion or Blazing Cartesia. I'm going to go with Albion because then the Retribution can reset me my branded fusion. So we'll go with the Albion on this one. We haven't fusion summoned yet, but you will do off of banishment, which is absolutely fine. And then what you want to do here is at any point, if your opponent tries to trigger anything or do whatever you want to, you could then activate the Baldrake. Do I want Baldrake or Saronir? Saronir can give me a nice little foolish. Let's go Baldrake. Absolutely fine. We'll banish the Albion because this was sent last turn. So Baldrake summoned. And then if your opponent activates an effect, you use Baldrake's effect to send the Druid Swarm. Druid Swarm effect will then send. And then off the back of that, you can then use Saronir's effect, banish the Druid Swarm, summon itself down. If your opponent does anything, you activate Beast. Beast will then get rid of the Saronir. Saronir's effect will then Foolish Burial, and you can Foolish Burial the Retribution, or you can Foolish Burial the Branded in White. Either or, you can add them back to your hand later on. Actually, we're going to go one more. We're going to go Greedier. We're actually going to send the Retribution, because then end phase I can reset the Retribution. And then you're going to activate Branded Banishment. Now you target a Despia monster or level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard. Which I banish with Albion. Foolish. Okay, well. I mean, maybe I could wait on the Albion. But the idea would be is you target the Albion, you bring the Albion back, and then, because it was successfully summoned, remember that. And then you trigger from there, you'd get Search of a Loss, which would be your Cartesia. And you've got so much more. Like, so much more. It's just, when you're doing a test stand, I'm trying, like, I probably should slow down on this. But you just get so sucked into the deck and the way it's playing that you forget everything you have in your graveyard. Whereas when you're dueling, you're so focused on what your opponent's doing, what you're doing, like you're actually on like Ultra Instinct focus mode. Okay, so now let's start going second. Let's show you how much of a difference that 6th card makes. It is a little bit more difficult going second because there'll be more cards that can omni-negate your Branded Fusion, which is like one of your go-getters. The deck can operate without needing to go into a fusion monster. You just need to open up a whole hand of Bystials. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, our opening hand of 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The reason I'm stopping at 5 is there is a high possibility that I've probably activated the Magnamute effect this turn. Now, obviously, with Thrusting, you might want to be a little bit cautious depending on what environment you're playing in. But the reason we're going to do that is because I would ultimately change my hand and change my top deck just by searching off of the Magnamute. So we're going to shuffle this up. We will then draw our 6th card for the turn. Another Magnamute. Okay, cool. Draw phase, obviously activate Branded Opening. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to discard the Sword. It's probably the least useful card for me right now. And this is obviously going to get me... This is all in draw phase again. Remember that. Aluba. Aluba's effect will trigger to give me Branded Fusion. Broken. There we go. So we shuffle that up. We then move into the main phase. Now keep in mind during the main phase you have priority on the first thing that gets activated. So make sure you do the right thing. So on this one, because I'm probably going to start a chain of events, I'm actually going to activate the Regained. Just because then I can recycle some material and get a bit of a draw play if I wanted to. If my opponent's got another card in the graveyard, I could summon down the Magnamute and trigger its effect. And so much more to go on as well. I'm then going to activate the Lubellion. Lubellion is going to search me an aggressive card, in my opinion. And I'm going to go with... Yeah, Saronir's defensive. Yeah, I could go for a Druid Swarm, but I'll go for the Saronir. Shuffle this up. We're then going to activate the Branded Fusion. Now on this one I'm actually going to go for the Rimbrum, because the Rimbrum is actually going to give me... I keep calling it Rimbrum, like Brum Brum. It's actually going to give me a lot more to go for. So we'll go for Medicoria and our Albaz. There we go. Medicoria and Albaz is going to go into Rimbrum. Da, 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 da. There we go. Nothing's been banished as of yet, and there are no more chains to go. So what we'll do here is we'll activate Saronir's effect. We'll banish the Medicoria. We'll summon down the Saronir. We use Mericoria's effect. I don't want to use... You could, in theory, go Chain Link 1 Regained, Chain Link 2 Medicoria, but because I've got the Branded Sword in the graveyard, I'm actually going to be able to banish that to add the Medicoria back, so I'm not going to use this just yet. We'll then use the effect of the Medicoria to search ourselves out the Cartesia, which will set you up a nice little bit of play as well. We're going to banish the Sword before we hit our 5th summon, and we're going to add back the Medicoria, which means we can negate should Nibiru come down. Very doubtful, but is what it is. And then we've still got place to make. Like, we've still got Magnamute, we've still got Lubellion, so we can Lubellion send the Saronir, summon back itself. Use Lubellion's effect to activate one face up. Now I'm going to activate Beast. And the reason I'm going to activate Beast is rather than trying to dig for more advantage, I'm just going to start picking my opponent's board apart. So we'll activate Beast, we'll destroy the Magnamute and pop one card our opponent controls. Then we're going to special summon down the Cartesia. We're going to use her effect to fuse. This is going to go with Albaz and herself. And this is going to go into your Dust Dragon. Dust Dragon effect will then be able to trigger as well. And this is going to let you Foolish Burial one, as well as Saronir Foolish Burial in one as well. So Saronir will Foolish Burial a Branded in white. Dust Dragon will Foolish Burial your Albion. You'll then use Albion's effect, putting it back to the bottom of the deck to send the Retribution. Shuffle this up, no draw because it went from deck. You then banish the Retribution to add the Branded in white back to the hand. And now this is where it gets a little bit more fun. So, we're going to... we've got that, fine. So, we'll activate the Branded in white, we'll banish our Saronir and our Albaz. This will get us into Lubellion. Lubellion's effect will trigger. I could still, if I wanted to, normal summon the Albaz and try and contact fuse, but I'm just going to get rid of it. We can then go Chain Link 1, Lubellion, Chain Link 2, Branded Regained. Regained will now, because we've got a Albaz in the graveyard, will allow us to put the Albaz back into the deck. And then we'll resolve the Lubellion, and the Lubellion will put our second Albaz back into the deck, and then put itself back into the deck, and give us Mirror Jade. So we've got the Cartesia that's going to come back during the end phase. We also get the draw off of the back of the Regained as well. So I'm going to shuffle this up. Obviously Albaz would technically go to the bottom of the deck. So we draw a random card. Absolutely fine for the follow-up. And then what you do is you go to battle phase. And then during the battle phase, you're going to activate Mirror Jade's effect. You're going to send it as cost your Albion. And you're going to banish one card your opponent controls. So we've popped one, we've banished one. And then you're going to use the, if you wanted to use the Rimbrum effect to negate the Mirror Jade to bounce a card. But that's entirely up to you. It depends if it's more effective to bounce or to banish, depending on what you're facing. And then during the battle phase again, you can still activate the Magnamute, summon itself down. And you're going to banish your Magnamute in the graveyard. Trigger its effect so that during the end phase you get a nice little search. And then you've got game there. Like pretty much that's just woof, OTK, done and dusted. And then in the end phase you'll get the Albion effect, and you'll also get the Cartesia back to the hand, so you'll have a nice little follow-up. And then the Albion will also be able to set you up either a Branded in red or a... Ideally you probably want the counter trap. The issue I have with the counter trap of Retribution is the fact that what this deck loses to is something like an evenly matched, and it should have been just a generic counter trap. So it doesn't need to, like, why does it need to say includes the effect of special on a monster or monsters? Like, literally should have said when your opponent activates a spell, trap, or monster effect, negate it. Like, that would have been so much cooler. Anyway, we're going to shove this up. We're going to do our second and final test hand going second after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut. Our opening hand of 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Saronir. Okay, cool. And the best thing about this is Fusion Deployment. Absolutely love this card. Yes, we have so many ways to get to Cartesia, but going second, Fusion Deployment is just as good because it's like a pseudo, it's like a very cool pseudo, like contact fuse, I suppose, or like a branded fusion in a sense. So with this, what we'll do is we'll start off with the Lubellion. We'll discard this, and we will search ourselves out a... Magnamute is probably the best one just because you give us a follow-up just in case something goes wrong, and we've already got the Saronir. I'm then going to activate the Albion Dragon, and the reason I'm going to do that is Albion Dragon is going to send Retribution. Yeah, we'll go Retribution on this one. We'll shuffle this up. I could summon the Albion Dragon if I wanted to, just for an aggressive push, but we're going to put that back to the bottom of the deck, and we're going to draw one card. Ooh, Banishment. Not the greatest, but okay, we'll make it work. And then what you're going to do is you're going to activate your Fusion Deployment. We can actually trigger the Tragedy, which will be fine as well. So Fusion Deployment, I'm going to go into Albaz. I'm going to attempt to use Albaz's effect. Now, chances are my opponent's got something from the extra deck. Whether it resolves or not is a different question. I'm going to discard Tragedy as cost, so it won't trigger the effect. Let's say we get lucky. I mean, I highly doubt it. The chances are it'll probably get negated. Even if it doesn't get negated, we've still got more plays, but... okay, actually, let's play with the assumption that it gets negated, right? Then what you're going to do is they know you've got the Magnamute in hand. So we're going to use Magnamute's effect. And we're going to banish the Tragedy. Tragedy's effect, chain it 1, Magnamute, chain it 2, Tragedy. Or, in this scenario, because we're going second, I don't know why I put him in defense. And I don't know why, yeah, fusion deployment. The Magnamute is probably least important to resolve. So I'd probably go 1 Tragedy, 2 Magnamute. And search out the Eluba. Normal summon the Eluba, effect to search, give me Branded Fusion. So my hand is still pretty good right now. Activate the Branded Fusion. We've got the Albaz on the field, so we're going to use Branded Fusion. We're going to send the Murray Courier. And we'll send the second form of Albaz. There we go, send both of those. We have to discard a card, and because I'm going for an aggressive OTK push, I'm probably going to go more... no, I don't. I'm going to go for Rimbrum. Actually, this is kind of a nice moment, because like Rimbrum can actually bounce the Magnamute, which is really kind of cool. I do like that option. So let's do the Saronir effect. Saronir will then banish the Murray Courier. And this is going to allow summon itself. We'll then use Murray Courier's effect, which will search us out Cartesia. And I've put the branded banishment in the graveyard, which I didn't need to. There we go. This will search us out the Cartesia. We'll then use Lubellion's effect, summon itself back. Saronir's effect will Foolish Burial. And we'll Foolish Burial a branded in white. We'll then use Lubellion's effect to activate face up, and I'm going to go for Beast because I've already activated... I could go for the Regained if I wanted to, but I've already pretty much activated everything I need to. Okay, so we've got the Saronir, which has been a Foolish, which is absolutely fine. Add back the Albaz, but I don't want to batch. It's not a big issue, actually. Let's go. Activate Branded in red, target the Albaz, add it back to the hand, and then fuse, and we'll fuse with the Eluba and the Magnamute. So that's 2 on the board. That's going to get me into Guardian Chimera. So pop 2, draw 1. I can now special summon down the Cartesia. We're then going to use the effect of Cartesia to contact fuse these 2. We'll go into Dust Dragon. Dust Dragon's effect will then be able to send from the main deck or extra deck. Now, obviously, if I send from the main deck, the one you want to be sending is the Albion Dragon. But I've already used this effect to get that random draw. What else have I got in the graveyard? I've got Retribution in the graveyard already, actually. So, yeah, I'm fine. So we'll actually send the Albion. Not that we need to worry about it too much. We'll then activate Retribution, banish this, add back the branded in white. There we go. We will then activate the branded in white, and we'll banish Albaz plus Albion. Don't need to, but you can do. We're going to do Mirror Jade. We'll put Mirror Jade up the top here. We're then going to use Magnamute's effect because we used it during our opponent's turn. Remember that. Activate the Magnamute, banish the Saronir, and I'll, activate effect. The whole board is stacked. If this doesn't lead to OTK, I don't know what else does. And then worst case scenario, Mirror Jade, send Albion, banish a card, tack, tack, tack. If you haven't somehow finished the game off, you can then pretty much set... I'm trying to think what we've got left. We've got Sword or Opening. Our sets off of Albion aren't going to be great. I suppose you just add Branded Fusion to the hand for the follow-up, but you shouldn't need to. And then in the end phase, of course, you'll resolve your Cartesia coming back to the hand, and you'll also resolve the Magnamute Searching, which I'll go for a Druid Swarm. And then during your opponent's turn, you've got, keep in mind this can't attack directly, absolutely fine. But during your opponent's turn, you've got a negate bounce if they activate anything. Mirror Jade is not live, but you do have the ability to activate Beast to get rid of the Magnamute. You've also got the ability of Druid Swarm, which probably might have been better being the Ball Drake, to be fair. Yeah, probably better being the Ball Drake. Because then what you do here is you use the effect of this. So you'd summon down the Ball Drake, banishing the Magnamute, for example, after you've already used Beast. And then you can use Ball Drake's effect to get rid of the Lubellion to pop a card, which opens up the space on the board. Then you can use Banishment and go from there. So you got a lot to kind of play around with, a lot to kind of do, and it works out really, really nicely. The deck's just super fun. I really like it. The fact that it kind of keeps everything not simple, but there's no links you need to worry about unless you really want to be playing Spheres. There's no overcomplications of the way, like, the direct routes of plays it makes. It's just a really cool, fun deck. And And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this does in the upcoming format. It really depends on a ban list, in my opinion, and what I mean by that is it depends on if anything really big happens to tier elements or not, and work it back from there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, guys, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.